Workplace Fire Safety, brought to you by Carlos Albizu University with trainer Antonio Cortez. After taking this course, trainees should recognize the effect of work-related fire hazards, identify sources of fires, classify types of fires, detail the major causes of fires and safety precaution, explain fire risk management, cite occupational safety and health administration regulations and procedures, such as fire extinguishers, fire suppression systems, exit routes, evacuation plan, emergency action plan, fire prevention, and maintenance of equipment. Also, define procedures during a fire emergency and answer post-test to measure concepts learned.
And at the top, and first at 11 tonight, we do have some breaking news in Derry. Firefighters are still at the scene of this 3-alarm fire at a building that houses industrial businesses, including an auto body shop. Crews first arrived at that fire about 8 o'clock tonight and expect to be there for quite some time.
The business is at the corner of Maple and Elm Streets, and that's where we find our Gene Mackin, who has the very latest. Gene.
Well, the fire is still burning here on Maple Street in Derry 3 hours after it was first reported in this industrial business complex. We are just a few blocks from downtown Derry. Fire departments from across the area called in to help. We are now at 3 alarms, and the flames are still
According to the National Safety Compliance, each year there is approximately 70,000 to 80,000 work-related fire hazards in the United States. Due to this issue, around 200 employees die and 5,000 more are burdened with fire injuries. Work-related fire hazards are indeed devastating for the families and friends of those victims. On the other hand, they cause about $2 billion of property damage and loss yearly. Studies suggest that around 15% of all fires in the workplace are caused by failure of work-related equipment, while all others are due to human error and behavior. For this very reason, it is important for companies to have a clear fire prevention and safety plan in case of an emergency. Fires are created by a combination of heat, oxygen, and fuel. They can easily be produced by open flames, static electricity, friction, faulty electrical circuits, and unshielded hot surfaces, such as cooking grills. A fire will stay active until it is extinguished. There are 5 classes of fires: A, B, C, D, and K. Each represents a number of combustible materials that can potentially cause a fire outbreak. Class A fire combustible materials include wood, cloth, paper, rubber, and plastic. These types of fires are extinguishable by water, but multi-purpose dry chemicals and halogenated agents are compatible as well. Class B fire combustible materials include flammable liquids, greases, and gases. These types of fires can be extinguished using foam, carbon dioxide, a dry chemical, or halogenated agent. On the other hand, a Class C fire is produced by electricity. To stop these kinds of fires, non-conduit agents must be used, such as carbon dioxide and dry chemical agents. Do not use foam or water unless you want to get electrocuted. Class D fires are produced by metals like magnesium, titanium, zirconium, and sodium. None of the previous extinguishing agents must be used because they will increase the flame. Instead, there are special fire extinguishers designed just for such an occasion. Lastly, Class K combustible materials include vegetables and animal oil or fat, which can be found in cooking appliances. These fires are only stopped using a special wet chemical. According to the Seattle Fire Department Fire Prevention Division, other major causes of workplace fires include arson, smoking materials, and wiring and appliances. To promote fire safety, it is important to housekeep the working environment. If combustible materials accumulate, there is a greater risk of potential fire hazards. Equipment and materials must always be kept in their proper locations, and all fire exit pathways must be clear at all times of any obstruction that might be in the way of people evacuating during a fire emergency. There should never be objects in the way of exits or control panels. The Seattle Fire Department Fire Prevention Division adds that organizations must designate an employee to turn off or unplug all appliances, including coffee makers, at the end of each working day. Do not overload outlets and make sure to replace any broken or cracked electrical cords. To prevent arson, pay close attention to security measures. Keep doors and windows locked after business hours. Keep areas around the building, especially alleys and loading docks, well lit and clear of combustibles. Also, smoking should only be prohibited in designated areas away from combustible materials and fire sources. In areas where smoking is allowed, use large, non-tip ashtrays and make sure everything in them is cold before they are emptied. Be sure that no one leaves smoldering cigarettes on furniture or in a wastebasket. Sometimes, another important fire safety precaution is to conduct a fire risk assessment to find out if there is any potential for a fire hazard to occur. Meacham explained that fire risk assessment's main purpose is to identify and characterize the fire risks and inform about management decisions. It is meant to answer three things. What can happen? How likely will it happen? And if so, what are the consequences? Fire risk assessment includes an estimate of the possibility of a fire actually happening. Also, it assesses those factors that could produce a fire and the gravity of should a fire spark. There are several steps involved. Identifying the objectives of the assessment, the metrics for assessment, the hazards of concern and the potential fire scenarios, conducting frequency and consequences analysis on the scenarios of concern, and estimating the risk associated with the scenarios. The assessment is also used to mitigate the risk by reducing the probability of occurrence or consequences. Occupational Safety and Health Administration requires all companies and businesses to have a fire safety plan in the workplace. It must be compatible, communicated adequately in the workplace, and maintained and updated. According to OSHA, every plan needs to state how to identify fires, the procedures to recognize and report unsafe working conditions, when to use a fire alarm, and the proper procedures for warning fellow employees about an emergency, calling the fire department, evacuation, and to count all employees after evacuation. In addition, all employees must receive training about the fire safety plan, and the employer must keep safety plan available for employees, employee representatives, and OSHA. All employers must document that affected employees have been informed about the fire safety plan, and make sure that any outside fire response organizations, such as the fire department, has been given an updated copy of the plan. As part of the fire safety procedures, employers must provide portable fire extinguishers and mount, locate, and identify them so that they are readily accessible to employees without subjecting the employees to possible injury. Use only approved portable fire extinguishers. Do not use portable fire extinguishers that use carbon tetrachloride or chlorobromomethane extinguishing agents. Assure that portable fire extinguishers are maintained, fully charged, operating properly, and kept in designated places at all times, except during use. And remove from service all soldered or riveted shell self-generating soda acid or self-generating foam or gas cartridge water-type portable fire extinguishers that are operated by inverting the extinguisher to rupture the cartridge or to initiate an uncontrollable pressure generating chemical reaction to expel the agent. Other U.S. Department of Labor regulation of fire extinguishers includes: every workplace facility needs the proper fire extinguisher for the present fire hazards. Employees are expected to learn how to use fire extinguishers properly and how to alert other colleagues during a fire emergency. Workplaces must have only approved fire extinguishers and make sure that they work properly. Also, there should be proper maintenance of all equipment. Each fire extinguisher is labeled with a letter rating that shows for what type of fire it is meant to be used on. Many workplace fire extinguishers have a multi-purpose letter rating such as A, B, C, which means that they are equipped to stop Class A, B, and C fires as well. Other types of fire extinguishers are available where the potential for other types of fires exist. The U.S. Department of Labor also requires company facilities to have their own fire suppression system. They state that all fire suppression systems are designed and installed to enhance fire safety in the workplace. The fire sprinkler system detects the fire, sounds an alarm, and puts the water where the fire and heat are located. The department adds that automatic fire suppression systems require proper maintenance to keep them in serviceable condition. When it is necessary to take a fire suppression system out of service while business continues, the employer must temporarily substitute a fire watch of trained employees standing by to respond quickly to any fire emergency in the normally protected area. The fire watch must interface with the employer's fire prevention plan and emergency action plan. It is important to note that signs must be posted in areas where the system is present because of the agents that can pose serious harms to employees while active. These automatic systems must have alarm systems that go off before discharge in order to warn employees about clearing out of affected areas. Moving onward, the OSHA Regulation Standard 1910.38 covers the following topics: exit routes, evacuation plans, emergency action plans, fire prevention plans, and maintenance of equipment plan. During a fire emergency, every work facility must have at least two methods of escape that are close to one another. Exit routes must never be blocked or locked. They must always be free of obstructions and have exit signs to signal them out. Furthermore, there needs to be a written emergency action plan for evacuation in case of an emergency, a fire emergency. The plan needs to describe routes and procedures for employees to follow. This written plan must be available to all employees. Also, there should be special procedures available in case anyone is physically impaired. The method to alert employees about a fire emergency must be part of the plan, as well as an alarm system must be available throughout the work complex. It is important that employees receive training about what needs to be done during an emergency. The plan must be reviewed with new employees so that they know what to do during such an emergency. During an emergency, employees must know which evacuation procedure is necessary and what their role is. According to OSHA regulations, in some cases where the emergency is very grave, total and immediate evacuation of all employees is necessary. In other emergencies, a partial evacuation of non-essential employees with a delayed evacuation of others may be necessary for continued plant operation. In some cases, only those employees in the immediate area of the fire may be expected to evacuate or move to a safe area, such as when a local application fire suppression system discharge employee alarm is sounded. All personnel must be sure about the evacuation procedure that has been planned in order to stay safe from fire. The designated safe areas outside of the building might be a parking lot, open field, or street that is located away from the facility. Employees need to be instructed to step away from the building doors in order to avoid blocking others from exiting. An emergency action plan should contain the emergencies that a company believes are to be expected in the workplace. These may include a fire, toxic chemical releases, hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, floods, amongst others. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration indicates that the employer should list in detail the procedures to be taken by those employees who have been selected to remain behind to care for the essential plant operations until their evacuation becomes absolutely necessary. Essential plant operations may include the monitoring of plant power supplies, water supplies, and other essential services which cannot be shut down for emergency alarm. Essential plant operations may also include chemical or manufacturing processes which must be shut down in stages or steps where the certain employees must be present to assure that safe shutdown procedures are completed. In addition, there should be a workplace maps and floor plans included in the action plan in order to demonstrate the adequate escape routes. It is very important to color code these maps to help employees decide an effective route assignments. OSHA explains that the employer should also develop and explain in detail what rescue and medical first aid duties are to be performed and by whom. All employees are to be told what actions they are to take in these emergency situations that the employer anticipates may occur in the workplace. There should always be a reasonable amount of personnel during job hours to aid others in evacuating to safe zones outside of hazardous areas. One employee that acts as a warden normally would take charge of at least 20 other employees during an emergency and guide and instruct them during a fire. These wardens must be trained on the facility layout and its escape route alternatives. All wardens and fellow employees should be made aware of handicapped employees who may need extra assistance, such as using the buddy system, and of hazardous areas to be avoided during emergencies. Before leaving, wardens should check rooms and other enclosed spaces in the workplace for employees who may be trapped or otherwise unable to evacuate the area. When evacuation is finished, the warden employees need to verify that all employees are in the safe area. If there are various places of employment in one facility, each respective employer should coordinate their action plans with one another. OSHA regulations state that a building-wide or standardized plan for the whole building is acceptable, provided that the employers inform the respective employees of their duties and responsibilities under the plan. The standardized plan need not be kept by each employer in the multi-employer building, provided there is an accessible location within the building where the plan can be reviewed by affected employees. If a multi-employer building-wide plan does not work, then each employer should work with one another to ensure that there aren't any conflicts and confusion during an emergency, especially in buildings with more than one floor. Moving forward, there needs to be a fire prevention plan as well, to help reduce the chances of fire emergencies and to detail the best ways to deal with such situations. These plans should be available for employees. It should also include the housekeeping procedures that specify the storage and cleanup of combustible materials and waste. Materials such as paper should be recycled. Also, handling and packaging of these items should be explained. The OSHA fact sheet number 91-41 indicates procedures for controlling workplace ignition sources such as smoking, wielding, and burning must be addressed in the plan. Heat-producing equipment such as burners, heat exchangers, boilers, ovens, stoves, fryers, etc. must be properly maintained and kept clean of accumulations of flammable residues. Flammables are not to be stored close to these pieces of equipment. All personnel should be informed of possible fire hazards and procedures. Before using the fire prevention plan, it should be also reviewed with new recruits when they start their employment in the case of modifications. According to OSHA regulation about fire prevention, it is the intent of this standard to assure the hazardous accumulations of combustible waste materials are controlled so that a fast-developing fire, rapid spread of toxic smoke, or an explosion will not occur. This does not necessarily mean that each room has to be kept each day. Employers and employees should be aware of the hazardous properties of materials in their workplaces and the degree of hazard each exposes. Certainly, oil-soaked rags have to be treated differently than general paper trash in office areas. However, large accumulations of waste paper or corrugated boxes, etc., can pose a significant fire hazard. Accumulations of materials which can cause large fires or generate dense smoke that are easily ignited or may start from spontaneous combustion are the types of materials with which the standard is concerned. Such combustibles materials may be easily ignited by matches, welder sparks, cigarettes, and similar low-level energy ignition sources. Another important factor of fire safety includes maintenance of equipment. Workplaces usually have equipment that detect fuel leaks and control heat sources. For example, deep fryer temperature limit switch, deep tanks, or flame failure flashback arrestor devices on furnaces. These devices must be maintained or there can occur possible fire hazards. For this reason, employees and managers should keep an eye on the maintenance of equipment dealing with combustible materials. Also, equipment should be inspected and tested frequently to make sure that devices are operable. Recommendations of maintenance procedures from manufacturers should also be followed. During an actual fire emergency, there is a procedure that must be followed. First off, when there is a fire, you must activate the fire alarm and call 911. Then, assist others to exit the premises and attempt to extinguish the flame. Only attempt to stop the fire if it is small and contained, and if you have a clear means to evacuate. After that, everyone must meet up in designated locations outside of the building or work area. Thank you for taking this course. Before we are finished, let's take a moment to do this true or false post-test activity to review concepts and measure what we have learned. Answer true or false to the following statements. 1. Yearly in the U.S., there's around 65,000 to 88,000 fire hazards. Answer true or false. 2. OSHA Regulation Standard 1910.38 covers topics: Fire Prevention Plan, Emergency Action Plan, Maintenance of Equipment Plan, and Classification of Fires. Answer true or false. 3. The Fire Prevention Plan should detail housekeeping procedures, Answer true or false. 4. It is important to color code the maps to help employees decide an effective route assignment. Answer true or false. 5. Exit routes must never be blocked for more than 30 seconds. Answer true or false. 6. Class A fire combustible materials include paper, wood, rubber, plastic, and cloth. Answer true or false. 7. Water-based fire extinguishers are useful against Class A fires. Answer true or false. 8. Maintenance of high-temperature devices should be done once a month. Answer true or false. You have about 5 minutes to review your answers before moving on to the next statements. Next set of statements. Some sources of fires are an open flame, wiring and appliances, and hot surfaces. Answer true or false. 10. Fire risk assessment's main purpose is to identify and characterize the fire risks and inform about management decisions. Answer true or false. 11. The U.S. Department of Labor also requires company facilities to have their own fire suppression systems. Answer true or false. 12. All employees must receive training about the fire safety plan. Answer true or false. 13. The fire prevention plan should be available to all employees. Answer true or false. 14. Class K fire combustible materials include electricity. Answer true or false. 15. As part of the evacuation plan, the fire alarm system must be available throughout the workplace complex. Answer true or false. You have about 5 minutes to review your answers. Then you can compare your answers to the answer key. Here are the answers to the post-test activity. Number 1, false. 2, false. 3, true. 4, true. 5, false. 6, true. 7, true. 8, false. 9, true. 10, true. 11, true. 12, true. 13, true. 14, false. And 15, true. Hope you enjoyed this course. And remember, keep safe. Keep fire safe.